So welcome to my new part work. It is an old part work. I got this off eBay. I believe this came out at the end of 2008. However, when I saw it, I knew I had to get it. It's called, well, the website that they advertise, which no longer exists, is Build the Flying Scotsman. But the title on the magazine, as you can see, is the Flying Scotsman Locomotive. So I'm going to call it the Flying Scotsman Locomotive because that's what it says on the title, and I'm going to go with that. So I bought this from eBay, and I think I got very lucky. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. The price was, well, it was a starting bid of £400, but I got it for £410 plus postage. Let's call it £430. Now the original price is 50p for issue 1, £2.99 for issue 2, and £4.99 an issue for the next 123 issues. Makes a total of 125 issues. Total cost £617.26. Now I think that's expensive by the standards back in 2008. That's based on the wage that I'm earning now compared to the wage I was earning then for the exact same job. Part works these days are £8.99, which is almost double what it was back then. However, it's good because it actually makes me appreciate modern part works, because relatively they're so much better these days. So this is actually going to bring a new challenge. I've looked at the parts. You don't get little motors with them. Anything you can buy is going to be expensive because the technology just wasn't there at the time. You didn't have any of these cheaper Chinese products, same quality for a lot less money, and there was an awful lot more work to do. The majority of this appears to be coming in the form of parts that you need to bend and glue into shape. None of the parts have been painted, so this is a brand new challenge for me. I mean, let me just quickly run you down. It says on page 1, you will need a set of needle files, fine wet and dry sandpaper, flat nosed pliers, preferably smooth jawed, long round nosed pliers, masking tape, super glue, fine pointed scissors, or nail clippers equally would do well, cocktail sticks, and clean cloth. That's the equipment list that does not come with modern part work, so I'm quite excited about this. So one thing that I've often said about, I mean, there's so many part works out there available to buy today, let alone all the ones that you can buy second user. So I've always said I need to restrict my part work so that there's a personal connection, and this is a very exciting one for me. I researched my family tree and I found out my mother's side of the family is a very large railway family. There's two families that came together predominantly. One side originally came from Wiltshire. Now I know I can trace those back to being farm labourers. Now I know that when the railways popped up, emerged, there wasn't always necessarily enough workforce. So they went round about the country trying to recruit. And you had these farm labourers that were on a very small wage, and there was only work for about 9 or 10 months a year, and they're trying to feed a family on a really poor wage that's only there for 3/4 of the year. Suddenly they've been asked, do you want to come to somewhere else? Do you want a much higher wage? We'll give you a house. Your children can sleep in a separate room from you. They can go to school, and there's a job available for your son when he gets old enough. Obviously it's a no-brainer, isn't it? So that's how one side of my family came into the railways. The other side, I'm not sure. They were in Norfolk, and then all of a sudden they became railway family. And those two families met together, and then that continued my family line. And in fact, actually, I can trace my railway family all the way up to my grandfather, who retired when British Rail went over to diesel, because by trade he was a fireman. And I believe he was made redundant because obviously once you get diesel trains, firemen are no longer required. I had an uncle who retired in 2001 through ill health. He's sadly no longer with us. I've got family who have been in the paper, various publications. I've got a picture of an uncle who drove a train where if a train should get derailed for whatever reason, they have a special train, like a sort of a crane. It's kind of like the breakdown truck for railways, and he drove this train, and it's quite exciting. I had some pictures once. So really there's a really good personal connection here, and I've always been into trains and things. Not so much, I might get shot for this, but my personal opinion is that trains just aren't as exciting these days. You know, you see a big old steam train coming down the track, sorry. Wow, exciting. But yeah, it's something that I'm really looking forward to. It's something iconic. I cannot tie in necessarily my family with the London North East Railway. I'll be honest with you, I don't think my family worked for LNER, but they are very close geographically, so it may well be, I don't know. Wouldn't it be great if my granddad stood on the platform of the Flying Scotsman shoveling coal? That would be amazing, but I can't confirm nor deny that. So let's have a look at the part work. As I think I said, I'm calling this issue 0. Two reasons. One, I want to introduce the project. Quite often when I introduce a project at stage 1, all it does is it draws out stage 1 and just makes it a very, very long video, which actually makes it dull for me, so it must make it dull for you, the viewer, too. So it's quite exciting actually, because in the instructions, stages 1 to 4, they actually give you a practice piece. So I'm going to treat the practice piece as stage 0. So next week's video, which will be issue 1, we will actually do from stage 5 onwards, because that is part of the actual track. So let's have a look. I've got all of the free gifts. The person I bought this from, and I can confirm the eBay seller was actually the subscriber, because he sent some of the things he sent me. He's actually sent me the original packaging, the you know, like the boxes that came through his door, and the names all match up. So he's not just a trader, but it is a super. I mean, like I said, I did really, really well out of this. So let's have a look. So this is the you usually get like a polite poster or something with an issue 1. This is what I think would have been with issue 1, and it just gives you little details about the model, reproduced from the original. It just gives you a few little blown up pictures here. Brass parts for extra strength, steel wheels with molded resin spokes. Wheels will not bend or buckle, so you can so you know, hopefully it's designed to last for years. Spring buffers, white metal parts. That is O gauge, and what O gauge means is about 1 to 43 scale, which is good for me because I'm used to working in 1 to 48 scale. So although not the same scale as what I'm used to, it's very similar. Now I'm led to believe O gauge is not the same as O scale. I don't know why it's different, how it's different, but you know, this is stuff that I'm all going to learn over the years. Basically what it means is that 7mm equals 1 foot, which is funny because it's converting. I get the two muddled up, but it's either going from metric to imperial or imperial to metric, which is, I find a bit odd myself. But basically what it means is the width of this magazine is almost 28 centimeters. So to this line there is 1 foot. So if you reproduce this magazine in O gauge, it would be about the width of my fingernail there. So it's pretty impressive sizing, isn't it? Now we have got we've got a picture of a man making his train there. Looks very excited, doesn't he? He's got a big smile on his face. He's so happy. So the locomotive is going to be 320 millimeters long, which is about 40 millimeters wider than this bit here. So it'll be about to there. And then the tender will be 185, so that makes 500 millimeters, which is about half a foot. So yeah, it's going to be quite a big model. Now it says whether you are an expert or a beginner, this new collection is for you. I think it's going to be more challenging than a modern part work. Modern part works, obviously where the technology has been developed, they can actually be made to a better standard, and they can do a lot more work at the machine level. And there's actually about 3 articles in each magazine, but you see there you've got 6 sections. So Britain's railways, railways of the world, railway people, great locomotives, classic rolling stock, and railway architecture. So I'm really going to look forward to those articles. Now I've got to give a big shout out to to eBay. Well, not to eBay, to the seller. I've had some bad luck on eBay. I think most people can share that story. And the amount of money this cost me, I've got to admit, I was sort of hanging on tender hooks. And I did send a message to this effect to the eBay seller, and I said thank you so much. I checked all the parts. All of the magazines were sealed apart from 3 issues. He did say that anything that had big issues, he undid the magazine, took the issues out so that they didn't get damaged, which he's done very well. You'll see these big issues during the course of these videos. But I said there was one part missing, and that's like a sheet of clear, like it was something plastic. I think it was like a window or something. I said, but I did find this. I said, so either that is it, or a mistake has been made. You know you've lost it and you've replaced it. And he says, no. He says, I just didn't like the one that came. And actually, I found it. I thought I'd lost it. So this is the original. As you see, it's a bit naff. It's got glue on it, but it's got a little bend in it. And he wasn't happy with that, so he's bought another sheet. I don't know if he bought that sheet years ago or if he bought it just for this. But either way, I'm very, very happy with that. So obviously you get the... oh, there we go. We also get Getting Started DVD. You wouldn't get this with a modern issue 1 because they just make a video for YouTube. But back in 2008, this is the way you did it. Everybody threw DVDs at everyone because they were cheap to produce, but you could get some, really nice images on there. So we have got the please subscribe leaflet. Now I said I think this came out at the end of 2008. I think it actually came out at the beginning now, because the offer to subscribe was valid until the 30th of April 2008. So I reckon it came out at the beginning. So if you were to subscribe, what would you get? So if you were to subscribe, this is what you would get. First of all, you would get issue 3 for free, which is a standard thing from Harshett. I think it's standard with most companies actually. Secondly, with your first delivery, you would get a massive poster. I can't show you the poster because it's absolutely massive, but it's the kind of thing that would be displayed at train stations. It's really nice. You also get some postcards, which these have been unopened, but that's the postcards you get. And yeah, that's your first delivery. Something else that you actually get with your free first delivery, which I think is brilliant, is these needle files. I mean, these are really good for a free gift. They're actually alright at any level. You cannot complain about those. So, you know, if you haven't got any, these are absolutely brilliant. Your second delivery, they don't actually show it on this leaflet, but your second delivery, you get this absolutely wonderful toolkit. Let me show you, this is just, I mean, the box alone is brilliant. So in this toolkit, you get a flathead screwdriver and a Phillips screwdriver, and these are very comparable to the set that you can get from Wilko for about a £5. You get more for a £5 from Wilko, but it's to sort of try and tell you the quality. It's got this nice swivelly head, and I think you get about 8 of these for a £5. They're not overly expensive, but they're fairly good quality. I think if you like the Wilko screwdrivers, you would get on very well with these. So next up we have, is that called a screwdriver? I call it a screwdriver. It's a handle with interchangeable heads, and then you just select the head that you want, and in it goes. If you need an extension, it's got an extension bar, and on that goes. Lovely. So, I mean, I'm actually going to be making use of this for some non-part work projects. Now this knife, it is a good knife. If you're new to the hobby, this is an excellent start point. Personally, I would upgrade it to something like this, because, you know, if you've got something that could potentially cut your fingers off, you really want something you've got more control over. But saying that, that is a good knife. I can't knock it. For the price that they're produced at, they're just fantastic. But my absolute favourite tool out of all of this, and I can't get it out, and you always need something to get it out with, are these pliers. I don't own any modelling pliers, and these are going to come in very, very useful. There is a tip in the magazine just to pop a bit of masking tape on there, and there's some little grippy bits on there, and that's going to cut into the brass, so we just put masking tape on those. So that's that free gift that came with the second pack, so that's really, really good. Probably my favourite free gift. So the next free gift, which would have come with the third delivery, is this. I haven't seen it yet, but it looks really good. It's a 50-minute documentary on the complete story behind the world's most famous steam locomotive. So something, you know, when you go to bed after reading, after doing your part work, this will be interesting viewing. So a few other little bits you get with it, but essentially that's what you get. So let's have a look at the magazine. So it's a nice little layout, actually. You know, attractive front page. I'm happy with that. The only criticism I've got is on the second page it tells you what's coming in issue 2. So basically it's telling you what's coming next week before you even see what's in this week. But, you know, I can live with that. I also like this small but straight to the point. This is what we're doing this week. Part 1, the driver's cab. I'm pretty sure I can make use of that on my videos. So the format is, there's a picture of all the parts that you get, and there's a parts listing which goes 1 to 7. Issue 2 will start with part 8 as opposed to the 1A, 1B or the 11, 12 system. A list of equipment that you will need, and then every now and again they give a few little hints and tips. So over on the next page we have the build. I'm liking the way they're laying this out. They chuck in a few little tips here and there, and that continues to there, and then we go into the articles. Now it looks like we're going to be getting 3 articles from a range of 6. There we go. So on the promotional material, it does tell us somewhere, here we go, gives us a list of the articles that we get. There's actually there's 6. Britain's railways, railways of the world, railway people, great locomotives, classic rolling stock and railway architecture. In this magazine we've got an article on great locomotives. Obviously they're going to begin with the Flying Scotsman because that's what it's all about. Very nice mix of words, pictures and tables. I do like that. It's grabbed my interest. There are words to read, and learn things from, but it's not too wordy. It's not so many pictures it's only going to appeal to kids. And you know, there's enough little facts there. Look, did you know it had a fuel capacity of 9 tons of coal and 5,000 gallons of water, which is 22,730 litres. Obviously depends on what country you come from, how you measure that. So the next article is railway architecture, which is all about the Channel Tunnel. I remember that being built. I remember when that didn't exist. And then you've got the routes of the Britain's railways. So yeah, some really nice articles. So what we're going to do this week then is we're going to split this, is why I've called this issue 0. We're going to split this into 2. Obviously I've done all the introductions, and you know, I don't want the video to go on for hours and hours. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do stages 1 to 4 in this magazine, which is a practice piece that they've given us. That's this piece here, and it's just to practice cutting pieces off. Do we call it a sprue if it's made of brass? We cut the piece off, we file it down, and then we do a little bit of bending, and then we see how we get on. And then next week we'll start from issue 5, and that will be we'll start from stage 5. I do apologise, but that will be issue 1 proper, and then every episode will be, you know, the magazine, and then 125 issues later we should have a completed train. Okay, so normally I go through the whole parts list for that magazine. Because we're going to be breaking this magazine up into 2 sections, I'm only going to go through the one, but I'm going to ignore absolutely everything, and all we're needing is this part here. This is the practice part, and that looks absolutely fine, and we'll deal with that. We're also going to need some needle files. Oops, my apologies. So I'm going to go with the needle files that we got with the free gift. Some wet and dry sandpaper. I'm actually going to do a little bit of an experiment. It's a practice piece, doesn't matter if it goes wrong. Let's see what happens if we use these. I do have fine sandpaper, but let's try and break it, shall we? We see it needs some flat-nosed pliers, which I've not actually got. We'll see if we can improvise. But I've got some pliers there. I've got the ones that come with the free gift, and I've got a couple of really good sets of tweezers. We'll see if we can get away with those. We're also going to need masking tape, super glue, some scissors, or say nail trimmers, which I'm actually going to use a knife, to be honest with you. And we're going to need a clean cloth or kitchen roll and some cocktail sticks. Okay, so this is going to be a nice simple stage. Obviously we need to get it out of the packet first, so might as well use a knife. So the part that we need is, I'll tell you what, this feels quite hefty. It's not thin. So this is the part that we need, and we need to get it off with scissors, nail trimmers. I'm just going to give my clippers a try. Probably aren't going to work because this is quite big. Oh, I think that's done it actually. This is actually army painter metal trimmers. Yeah, that's done it, but it's not liking it. So if I use these, it may actually benefit me just cutting across the frame. So that's the part cut off, like that. Now the problem I've always found with connecting points is you've got to remember where they are. If you leave this connection point longer, it makes it a lot easier to locate but harder to remove. If you leave it shorter, you might lose it. With metal, it's not going to be so bad, because if you gently run your finger along, I can feel that it's there, and then there's one there. And don't ever run your finger hard, because obviously you'll slice your finger. But there you go. Oh, I felt something there, but it turns out that is actually the pattern. So that's probably going to be the easiest way to find them. So I'm going to look for a file, and I'm after a flat one. There we go. So just an ordinary flat one, no tricks to it. And what we're going to do when we find the burr, we're just going to give it a gentle sand. That's quite difficult actually. Try to keep your filing in one direction. I tend to find away from me. If it's a little bit stiff like this one is, I'm just bracing my hands on the table, and there we go. That's nice and flat, smooth. Once it comes down, once you find you're actually scraping along the rest of it, you know it's there. There's a tiny one there. You might then want to switch to a smaller bit of sandpaper just to, there you go. I'm really happy with that. As you can see, no burr showing at all. This one, and just see the tiny burr just there, and this one, it's gone. So we'll carry on with it with the other two. And I don't mind doing this because you get to know your parts. That's actually gone really smooth. You know, when you've got this finished model at the end, it's going to be what, nearly 3 years, but you've taken care on every single part. You know every part must be essential, otherwise what was the point in putting them in? And you have the part where everybody goes, oh, that's beautiful. You know that that's just as important as the parts that they don't comment on. So there we go. I've got that lovely and smooth, and that's ready for the next stage. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to do some bending. What it's going to ask us to do is bend along these lines. I can see in a future stage, this is actually very similar to the cab side, and it's going to ask us to bend this around the side, but it's also going to ask us to bend this top piece to 40 degrees. It doesn't tell us to bend this top bit, but it's a practice piece, so let's bend that to 40 degrees as well. So I'm gonna try two different things. The actual way of asking us to bend it is with some flat pliers. You see I've put some masking tape in there, and that's the way we're going to do it properly, but I'm just going to give these a try as well. So what I'm going to do along the line, this is, I'm expecting this to not work, but you know, this is the thing, we're here to see what we can and can't do. So I've also not scored this, and I've done that on purpose. So I want to see how much easier it is if you score it. Actually, another way I could do it, let's try it with a steel ruler. I got this ruler out for a reason, and that's if we're going to score lines, we want more control of our blade. So basically, when you need to do a task, you employ any method you can to do that. So that's not a great way to do it. I've actually bent the side a little bit, so we're going to find a better way to do it. So, but this is that's one of the reasons I'm actually enjoying this part work, is because we can try different methods. So I'm going to gently rub this in, and I'm gradually going to get it closer to the, see if that does any better. It's not too bad, is it? I mean, obviously when we haven't got anything to compare it against, then we don't know. So I'm going to get my disposable blade. I am going to use a disposable one on this one, so I don't want to wreck my good one. Although I buy my blades in bulk, so they don't really cost an awful lot. So try it the proper way. Obviously the longer this is, oh, that's so much easier. I think it's the equipment I used more than anything. So, and I'm not going to bend this hard because friction can heat it up and it can help it to snap. Alright, so I'm happy enough with that. So that was a fun little play. So let's do this side bit properly. And what we want to do is we want to create a curve. And I'm wondering also if we bend these and then put them around something round, do you think that might help getting the shape? So let's, to be honest with you, actually, because these are scored, I don't think you're going to need the ruler. Got stuck in the hole. Alright, I'm going to switch this round now because I don't want to slice my fingers off. Some of these I might end up scoring twice because these lines are so close together. It's hard to tell which ones you've done and which ones you haven't. So let's see. God, this is difficult because I'm right-handed. If I was left-handed, I would obviously... Actually, let's give it a go left-handed. Find something to roll it on. I know this isn't perfectly round, but I think it's just a case of just doing what you can. It's going to be a bit difficult because this bit there, so we want that to hang off the side. As we're lifting it, this bit's trying to dig into the surface. I think what'll work quite well actually might be a big paintbrush. This reminds me when I did some metal earth figures, and I was finding I was having to use all sorts of things to get things to bend round at a 90-degree angle, or whatever angle I needed. But I don't see any shame in using paintbrushes, doweling rods, anything like that. Don't think that end bit has curved properly. So just try and just get these ends done. So this might be a bit more difficult than I thought it was. Well, actually, I don't know how difficult I thought it was going to be. I did look at some points and I thought that's going to be really hard. I might not even be able to do it. So to say it's more difficult than I thought. There you go. That's got a bend to it. It's not perfect, but I'm not unhappy with that. I think it's just a case of being patient with it. So each magazine is probably going to take longer than I thought. So when you see 2 or 3 parts, that doesn't... Oh, that's a lot. Look at that. That's really nice now. I like that. So yeah, just because you see 2 or 3 parts doesn't mean it's going to be a 5-minute build. As I say, this is now running to 7.5 minutes just for this particular section, and that's only the one section. You know, this is without the removing the burrs. There you go. That middle bit I'm not happy with. It's all about tiny fine adjustments. What do you reckon, guys? I think that's okay. Okay, so I really like that top bit actually. I don't know if I should, I mean that's supposed to be a 40, well it will be a 40-degree angle, but when you come to actually doing it for real, it will meet up at a certain point and you'll know what when it's got the right angle. So let me just check these have come out okay. Yeah, do stretching back a little bit. That's a lot better. Not perfect. Not perfect, but I think for a practice attempt, I think I've done okay there. I'm happy with that. Like I say, we don't know what's going to happen. You know, when we actually do it, I think we've got like a foot plate here, and that's going to go. Well, this piece is going to go in there somewhere, and then it's not till you actually line. It's actually going to go up something like that. So you can see actually I've bent it over a little bit too much. You can't really see. These parts are really shiny. So that's actually been overbent slightly, but then what we do is we'll just work it back. Okay guys, so that is it. Next week I will be starting the magazine for proper. But this magazine has given us a little idea of the tools we're going to play with. As you can see, the workstation has got messy very quickly with all the various tools I've got out. So obviously we're going to have to be quite disciplined with keeping tidy. Obviously the people who know me are probably laughing right now because you know how hard that is for me. But yeah, it's going to be a challenging build. It's something different. You know, I've got builds with screwdrivers, and I've got builds with glue, you know, and now I've got a build that's completely different. This is how it was done in the old days. This is, the old guys might be arguing, this is proper building. I'm not going to agree or disagree with that statement, but I can understand where they're coming from. Okay guys, so I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next week.